In this example, we're going to want to add filtering to a list of books. Now, the server we've received here is a bit broken because right now we're no longer going to load all the books. We're going to load some of the books. So it might be useful to know how many books there are in total. Right? We're going to know via the length of the array how many books there are we've loaded, but we also want to know how many there are in total. Which means we're going to first go to our book reducer and we're going to add a couple of things. So we're going to say we have a count, which starts from 0, and here we're going to get book list from action payload records and count from action payload count. Now, getting back to book list, let's add the filtering logic. So in order to just get filters, even if they don't work, we can go on any of our columns and say filter field, and then we have to handle two things. So on filter, apply click, which is going to be handle filter, and on filter clear, which is going to be handle filter clear. Now we're going to see our filter shortly. So, but first let's put the same thing for content. This is going to crash right now because we don't have those handlers. So let's just add them. So we're going to have a handle filter, which is a function of event, and a handle filter clear, which is a function of event. Right, so going back here, we can see that we now have filters. They don't do anything, but we have them. Right, we're going to look at a simplified fashion of implementing filters. We're going to assume there's one condition and it's a contains condition. If we would like to extend our service interface, we could presumably cover any of the combinations which are supported here. Right, so we have to implement these two functions, but first off, let's consider that we don't actually need an object structure, which is what we're going to find in the event. What we need is a string, which we then can send to the server, right, as a filter condition in the URL. So let's have the string. We're going to call it filter string, which is going to start with an empty string, and the filters themselves, which are going to be objects. Now, their structure is going to be a bit more complex in the sense that the filters are going to have a key for each field, and each of our fields is going to have a filter definition. Now, the definition is going to contain a value and a match mode, which is what we could have selected in that little pop-up. So I'm going to say match mode, and this is going to be filter match mode dot contains. Like I said, we're basically going to hard code contains. The same thing is going to happen for content. Filter match mode has to be imported, and it's in primary /API. Now we're ready to implement handle filter and handle filter clear. Now for handle filter, what we're going to do is we're going to start from the previous version of the filters. Right. And then we're going to replace the filter for the key in the event. Now, this means all filters of event.field is going to be event constraints Now the structure is so complex because it actually supports complex filters, which are conditions with and or etc. Now we have a new version of our filters, so we have to set filters of old filters, which are modified filters. But this is not going to work because the comparison is not a deep comparison, which means in order to get the filters to update, we're going to have to spread them, thus making a copy of them. Now for handle filter clear, we're actually just going to reset everything to the initial state. Like I said, however, we don't actually need this array of filters. What we need is the filter string. So we're going to have an effect which is going to update our filter string whenever the filters change. Now, whatever the state of the filters is, we're going to extract the keys, right? So the fields which are involved in the filter. And for these, we're going to calculate a computed filter string. And this is going to be keys.map. First, we're going to reduce our filters to something a bit more simple. So we're going to have key value pairs, and we're going to say key is e, and value is filters of e dot value. Now we only care for the filters which are actually contain something different than null. So we're going to filter the filters based on the fact that e dot value is not null. Then we're going to map it to something which would fit in a URL. So key value pairs in a string. So this is going to be e dot key equals e dot value, and whatever we get, we're going to join based on ampersand, right? And this behavior is supported by the server. Feel free to look over it. So then we're going to say set filter string of this new computed filter string. Now we've updated our filter string, but it's useless to us, right? So what we have to do is whenever we try to filter, perform the request to the server again for the box. So we're going to say use effect. This is going to be dependent on the filter string. Whenever that updates, we're going to want to get the data back from the server. So we're going to dispatch get box of filter string, and our action does support this. Right. So now, if we, for example, we say AAA, it's been filtered, and if we clear it, it's reloaded. Exactly what we wanted.